This is in reference to Bill's Talking Points memo from July 15th, where he talked about unintended consequences. Let's start off by one thing, is that ISIS is a regional problem. It's going to be handled regionally. Hopefully the United States won't have to get into it in any way, shape, or form. They are not a threat to the world. There may be some isolated things, people who are in ISIS that have passports, but that's very, very few. And I think that our intelligence agencies and European intelligence agencies will handle that. And then conflating a threat to the world by all of these young immigrants that are coming here, which I have said before, is a refugee problem. Bill, you went all over the map tonight. Really impressive how you just went from one area to the other. Nothing made any sense at all, but I understand to you that it did make a lot of sense. First off, I know that you talked about the disease end of it, where you had some cop on, and they said that these other cops, officers, maybe Border Patrol, were catching different things, but there's no correlation in any way, shape, or form that there was a cause and effect of those children coming here and them catching some type of condition outside of lice. But that's not a disease. And then just to throw out there somewhere in San Diego that somebody had gotten sick, it's because of the kids there. Well, I mean, how big is the base on San Diego? That's thousands upon thousands of people that are there every day. And there's 20, 30, 50 kids, and somebody gets sick? Really stretching its bill, really, really stretching it. And then and then going all the way to Massachusetts in reference to a school system which has 500 Guatemalans, I believe that you said. And again, they're already here. They're already signed up for school. This is something that they know about. This is what our country's been doing all along. We have had ESOL for 20, 30 years. The school system may be small. It may be difficult to process them, but they're there. They're in school. Instead of bitching about it, Bill, why don't you donate some money to the school system in Massachusetts so that they can help those Guatemalan children? I know you give to other things, but I mean, you're bitching about all this stuff. And, unintended consequences, and you go into all of this stuff about the border and these people, these kids. Oh, one other thing I forgot to mention was that my understanding is that most of these children are already immunized because they have, national medical care in those countries. Now, I may be wrong because I only heard it from one source, but then again, saying that they're diseased is just a great little fear factor to keep things going, continuing to impress upon your base that they are a threat to the United States. 50,000 poor children alone here in the United States, having taken a trip of over 1,000 miles to get here because of violence in their home country. So, and those are bad unintended consequences. But let me ask you this, Bill. How about the unintended consequences of the United States for the last 60, 80 years not doing anything to help out those Central American countries? And then when we do, we just give them arms like we did in Nicaragua and El Salvador and places like that. How about some type of an unintended consequences of not having enough of a tax base because people like you want to leave the country because you think your tax too high, and American companies that are making billions upon billions of dollars are buying smaller companies overseas and using them as their tax base? That's an unintended consequences, that we don't have enough money for foreign aid, where we might be able to help out some of these countries with education, with industry, with maybe tourism in terms of their rainforests and things like that, energy production, things like that. That's an unintended consequences of not having enough money to make overseas investments, to have foreign aid. How about the unintended consequences of not having a decent minimum wage? What about the unintended consequences of not being able to, not having enough of a tax base that you can't educate your children here? So you found two random black people complaining about it, which I believe is their right to do. Nothing wrong with that, and I understand that. But hey, it hasn't been the Democrats who haven't wanted to invest more in our minority communities invest more in our poor neighborhoods to try and bring them up, having a higher minimum wage, setting the Common Core standards, all of those things. But, you find two random people who are upset. It's not like all black people are upset. But, you want to find these things to itch that, Obama's not doing his job, that there's a crisis on our border, that they're bringing disease, that our school systems are overwhelmed, and it's just an attempt by you to help get more Republicans elected in the fall. That's all it is. Because this crisis, once the elections are over, will die because there'll be something else that's going to come up. This thing will fade away because it will be handled, and it will be handled correctly. See ya.